apathy is death, worse than death, because at least a rotting corpse feeds the beasts and insects.
Apathy is death.
Apathy is death. Apathy is death.
Apathy is death.
Statement: apathy is death.
With most people being in a state of total apathy towards the MCU, what they really needed was a grand slam. Boy howdy, they needed to crush that baby out of the park. They needed to deliver a movie that would rake in tickets by the millions, if not the billions, and show everybody that the MCU was back on top, baby. So what we got in answer to this was The Marvels. And it sucks. It really does suck. I cannot believe how bad this movie is. It makes Love and Thunder look like the MCU's magnum opus. I can't believe I just said those words, but I did, and I have to, because I really have to talk about just how bad this movie is, and how it doesn't solve their problem of apathy at all, because literally nobody is going to see this movie. And I can tell you firsthand nobody's going to see this movie, because I took my friend Joseph to our theater at a 6 o'clock showing only 4 days after the movie had come out, and we were the only ones in there, which admittedly was the best way to watch this movie. It was really the only way I would want to watch this movie, because if there had been people in that theater, or if I had been by myself, I would have been bored to death, because we could not have laughed and made fun of how bad this movie really is. Normally with my movie reviews, if I think the movie's good, I'm going to set it up for you. I'm going to, let you know why you should go see it, get you intrigued, make you buy a movie ticket. And if I don't think it's good, I'll, kind of explain why, maybe not break down the whole plot just in case I think you might like it. But not today. Today I'm giving you the whole steak. You're getting all 3 courses with this meal, and I'm letting you know just why you should not go see this movie, because if you give 2 farts about it, you've probably already seen it anyway. So I don't really care about spoilers. I'm going to break it down and let you know just why this piece of trash is not worth watching. The movie opens with Darbin, our villain of the movie, on a planet where she finds a quantum bangle, but the other bangle is mysteriously missing. How did she find the bangle? How did one end up in space and the other on Earth, where an old lady mailed it to her granddaughter after she died? I imagine if you asked a hardcore comic fan, they could tell you all these answers, but for the audience, we're just told to shut up and roll with it. So Darbin opens a tear in space with her bangle, which grabs the attention of Nick Fury and Monica Rambeau. So Monica decides to fly out and touch the anomaly, because that's totally safety protocol and has no risk of eviscerating her whatsoever. Right as Monica is touching the anomaly, Captain Marvel is investigating the spot where the bangle was used to tear open space, and on Earth, Kamala notices her bracelet is acting up. Now, I need to stop here and address 2 glaring problems with this movie. Firstly, the switching mechanic is all over the place. At first you think whenever one of them uses their power, they all switch. But then they say that when 2 use their powers simultaneously, they will switch. But then we get scenes where 2 people are using their powers and they don't switch, or else they switch with someone who wasn't using their powers at all. And it's annoying how every time this happens, it makes you stop and think about why it doesn't make sense.
I'm sorry, I'm allergic to bullshit.
Secondly, we have the editing. Now, I have to say that after editing my first YouTube video, I know how hard editing can be. And I imagine editing a movie with as many rewrites and reshoots as this has to be a total pain in the nuts. But this is a big budget MCU movie with dozens of people in the editing room, and it has no excuse to be this headache inducing. Anyways, after the Marvels fight their respective enemies, they all come together to figure out what's happening to them. And the script tries to explain the switching mechanic, but like I already said, it fails miserably. The 3 of them pack up into Captain Marvel's ship and book it to a Skrull refugee settlement where the Skrulls have decided they don't want peace with the Kree. So Darbin proceeds to tear open space-time and steal the Skrulls' planet's atmosphere. So after more choppy editing and fuzzy CGI, they evacuate most of the planet, and then the Valkyrie woman shows up and takes the Skrulls to New Asgard, which is a pretty sweet deal if you ask me, but they show as much gratitude as my dog when I give him dog food instead of chicken. After another exposition dump about the Bangles and how the multiple raptures are endangering the universe, they chase Darbin to another planet again, where she tears open another rapture again, and steals the planet's ocean for her own. Now, thanks to the movie's bizarre pacing, I can't remember when we got the flashback explaining that Captain Marvel destroyed the Kree's evil AI thinking it would save them, but somehow it destroyed their planet and sun. But it's worth mentioning that this did happen at some point, and the emotional issues Captain Marvel struggles with because of her actions are literally resolved in the very same scene. Now for the final act, and you better strap in tight because this is a roller coaster that'll have you on the edge of your seat. The Marvels fight Darbin on her own ship, and for about 2 minutes, she somehow beats the crap out of all of them, even though there are 3 of them, and all Darbin has is a hammer and the ability to absorb Captain Marvel's energy. But after finally being beaten down and literally impaled with debris, she agrees on peace if Captain Marvel uses her energy to reactivate the Kree planet's sun. It really ticks me off how Marvel is going with the Star Wars reboot trilogy of screenwriting, where a character's powers are only discovered when the script needs them. But anyway, Darbin goes bad again, steals the second bangle, and opens a rift to her dying son. Except the effort of it incinerates her, and as we find out later, the portal goes to an entirely new dimension for some reason, only so that Monica can get stuck on the other side when she conveniently finds the power to close it and set up a sequel, because this movie is naive enough to think it will actually get one.
Sequel?
After that, Captain Marvel goes to reignite the Kree planet's sun, which takes her like 2 seconds. And for some reason, the movie treats the sun like a lamp that just makes a dark planet light again, and not as a heat source that the Kree planet literally could not have survived without for all these years. But whatever. Oh yeah, and there's also a mid-credits scene where Monica finds herself in a hospital surrounded by X-Men, who tell her that Charles Xavier wants to talk to her, but they couldn't be bothered to pay the actor to be in the movie for a cameo, so we don't actually get to see him. Now, I think it's sufficient to say that I've already taken a fat enough dump on this plot. In fact, there's an entire subplot about the space cats that have to eat the crewmates so they don't blow up on the spaceship. But it's stupid and a total waste of time, so we're not going to go over it, and instead I'm going to take a crap on the characters. As far as characters go, really the only good thing I can say about this movie, aside from the surprisingly short runtime, which I rather enjoyed, is that Kamala is pretty good, honestly. You can tell the actress really wants to be there, you can tell she's excited to be on the set of an MCU movie, but she's still working around a really terrible script, and even though she's good, it doesn't even come close to make the movie worth watching. Surprisingly, Brie Larson does get to bring a little bit of personality to Captain Marvel and spread her acting wings with some emotional scenes. But again, the character development is so shortly baked that she still feels like a really stale character, and these scenes fall flat because you forget about them in 5 seconds. Rounding out our trio of main heroes is Monica Rambeau, and I'm gonna have to think about this one. But as far as movies go, I don't think I've seen a worse performance in an MCU movie, period. There probably were worse performances in some of the shows like Secret Invasion that I'm not remembering, but as far as the movies go, this is as bad as it gets. She does not deserve to be in this movie. She is not giving it any effort whatsoever. Her character is so underdeveloped, and it's weird because she didn't do bad in WandaVision. I liked her in WandaVision, and I was like, oh, they're setting up a new hero. That's kind of neat. I guess we'll see where she's going. And if this is where she's going, just stop. Just stop. Kill the character now. Just cut it off. It doesn't need to continue.
It's time to stop! It's time to stop, okay? No more!
Now, one of the core complaints with the MCU for most people is that their villains are, for the most part, forgettable and bland. I mean, sure, we have some really great ones like Thanos and Zemo, but most people just forget about them the second they get out of the theater. I know a lot of people memed Darren and said he was the most forgettable, but I disagree. I love Darren, man. He's so generic, he's so bald, he's so bland, that he's just like the perfect comic book villain, and he stuck with me. I will always remember Darren. For me, the bad guy from Wakanda Forever was the most forgettable villain. I still can't remember his name, I can't remember half of his screen time, I can't remember anything about him, but he just got dethroned, man, because Darbin is so unbelievably boring and so poorly acted. I'm telling you, I haven't seen a villain, like evil villain face, this bad since Elijah Wood's face in Return of the King. Like, I thought it couldn't get worse than that, and then I saw this movie and I was like, oh no, it totally can. That is not an evil face. And she is not getting paid to act in this movie, and if she is, it's a scam. You need your money back. She has no time to be developed. I know I said the short and sweet runtime was a pro because of how bad the movie is, but it also keeps us from developing any of these characters, and especially the villain, because she gets no screen time, she gets nothing. You will not remember her or her name. But now, we're talking about the worst offender. We're talking about the guy who, when he was on screen, I had to claw my eyes out. I couldn't look at the screen when he was there. And you're probably not going to believe me, but I'm talking about Nick Fury. one of the most cool, shady guys in the MCU who was always in the background scheming, and he never shied away from a one-liner, but for the most part he was always there, and he was grounded, and he was serious. But in this movie, you're not watching Nick Fury. You're watching a stand-up comedian. You're watching a guy who every single line, it's either a one-liner or it's setting up a punchline. I think I counted 2 lines in the whole movie, and he had a big role. I'm counting 2 lines in the whole movie where he wasn't making a joke. In fact, for me, what had to be the worst part in this whole movie was about 30 minutes in, and after this scene, I gave up hope. I threw my hands up in the air. Me and Joseph started dying of laughter, not because it was funny, but because we just couldn't believe how far we'd come. So Captain Marvel is on the spaceship with Nick Fury while they're all switching around, right? And she comes up to Nick Fury and she puts up the karate hand to signify just how important this situation is. And Nick Fury interrupts her by holding up 2 fingers and going, "Scissor beats paper." Why? Oh my gosh. Holy cow, dude. Even we're just thinking about it, even remembering it, brings back all sorts of cringe. I mean, Marvel movies are kind of known for their pervasive humor. That's just kind of like a given. But I don't think there's ever been a more out of place, unnecessary, out of character joke in the entire MCU. And the second Nick Fury said that, the movie was just dead to me. As far as CGI goes, it's what you'd expect from Marvel at this point. They're overworked, they have too much on their plate, they can't be expected to make really good CGI in the amount of time that they have. So I won't talk about it much, but what's weird with this one is that we've got a couple really beautiful shots, like these sweeping vista shots of spaceships and planets and cities that are absolutely gorgeous. And then everything else is covered up with a crap ton of film grain to hide just how bad it looks, but you still can't hide it. It's still there. It doesn't look good. And it's unfortunate because there's moments where the potential shines through. But I think it's high time we wrap this one up, because in the end, this is not a good movie. It is probably the worst installment in a franchise that a lot of people think is just past its prime.
Hey, everybody hits their stride. You just hit yours 50 years ago.
So, finally cooking this turd, I'm going to crank the diabolical dial up to a 25%. It should be at 20, but that extra 5% is just the fun Joseph and I had laughing at this film. But even then, there are far better bad movies to laugh at, like The Expendables. I enjoy watching that movie so much more because it's so much more harmless and so much funnier and so much cheesier. It's just a better bad movie to watch. So, there you go. That's my take on the Marvels. If you're one of the 37 or so people who've seen this movie, let me know what you thought in the comments. And if you haven't seen it, hopefully this review saved you some precious time and money. If you enjoyed, please consider clicking that subscribe button, dropping a like, and turning on notifications so you don't miss my first booster shot upload. If you don't know what those are, I'll explain on my first upload. Now please excuse me, I need to go use soap suds and elbow grease to scrub this movie out of my brain.